In 1987, a family of 6 vanished mysteriously at sea, only to reappear 3 years later, changed beyond belief. What happened to them during those lost years? A haunting tale of survival, secrets, and a curse that defies explanation. You won't believe what they endured and what they brought back with them. Watch till the end to uncover every shocking detail, and don't forget to subscribe for more unbelievable true stories like this. Hit the bell icon so you never miss a mystery that will leave you speechless. The year was 1987, a time when the world was still unhurried, when the pulse of life beat steadily with the rhythms of nature and human hope. The sea was vast and endless, its blue depths a mirror for dreams, mysteries, and ancient tales whispered on salty winds. Along the rugged coastline of a small coastal town in southern Spain, the Moreno family prepared for a weekend voyage that would soon become legend, a story shrouded in silence, fear, and astonishing survival. Carlos Moreno was a man shaped by the tides and tempered by years of honest labor. His hands, weathered yet steady, had built boats and mended nets. His eyes, dark and steady, held the calm of one who respected the sea's power but never feared it. Lucia, his wife, was a warm-hearted woman whose laughter filled the small house perched on the cliffs overlooking the harbor. Together, they raised 4 children, Mateo, Sofia, Diego, and baby Elena, each a spark of hope in their modest lives. That morning in late August, the sky was a brilliant blue, unmarred by clouds. The sun rose early, flooding the harbor with gold, as fishermen prepared their boats and neighbors waved at the Morenos. The family's modest vessel, Esperanza, lay anchored at the dock, its hull freshly painted white with blue trim, gleaming in the sunlight. The town was alive with the sounds of seagulls, creaking ropes, and the distant hum of engines. Radios crackled with news and music from a world still untouched by digital haste. People paused to watch the family board their boat, sensing a calm joy in their smiles and gestures. Carlos helped Lucia carry supplies aboard, baskets of bread, jars of olives, fresh fruits from the market, and a small cooler packed with freshly caught fish from the previous day. Mateo held the fishing rods, excitement flickering in his eyes, while Sofia clutched her sketchbook, eager to capture the sea's beauty. Diego bounced with childish energy, chasing gulls, while Elena gurgled softly in her mother's arms. With steady hands, Carlos raised the sails, and Esperanza slowly pulled away from the dock, cutting through the calm waters of the Mediterranean. The air was warm and fragrant, carrying scents of salt, pine, and distant wildflowers. For the first few hours, the voyage was idyllic. The sea was calm, the horizon endless. The family laughed and sang old songs, their voices mingling with the wind. Mateo cast his fishing line with patient concentration. Sofia sketched the play of sunlight on the water, and Diego chased waves with childlike wonder. As the day wore on, the sun climbed high, its heat beating down mercilessly. Lucia warned the children to stay hydrated, and Carlos adjusted the sails to catch a gentle breeze that promised a swift return. The sky remained clear, the radio playing softly, and the town faded into a hazy memory behind them. But the sea has a language that humans rarely understand, a whisper of power, change, and ancient will. Beneath its sparkling surface, currents shifted, and clouds began to gather in the distance, slow and subtle at first, like shadows creeping across a canvas. By late afternoon, a fog began to roll in, thick and sudden. It crawled over the water like smoke, swallowing the boat and cutting visibility to mere feet. The family's laughter faded as an uneasy silence settled. Carlos checked the compass and the instruments. The needle spun wildly, disoriented by the strange conditions. Lucia gathered the children close, her voice calm but tinged with concern. The fog seemed unnatural, thick as wool and cold as a stone. The radio crackled with static, then fell silent. Then, from the east, the first low rumble of thunder rolled across the waves. The sky darkened rapidly as ominous clouds piled up, blotting out the sun. The air grew heavy and charged with electricity. Waves began to rise, swelling into towering walls of water that crashed against the small boat with terrifying force. Lightning slashed the sky, illuminating the faces of the Morenos, wide-eyed, desperate, clinging to hope. The storm struck like a beast unleashed. Winds howled, tearing at the sails and rigging. Rain hammered the deck, turning it slick and treacherous. The boat pitched and rocked violently, the sea's fury intent on swallowing them whole. Carlos fought with all his strength, steering against the waves, shouting instructions over the roar. But the ocean was relentless. A monstrous wave hit the starboard side, lifting Esperanza high before smashing it down into the depths. The boat groaned and splintered, wood breaking apart as the family was thrown into the icy water. Cold, dark, and unforgiving, the sea pulled them under. Carlos grabbed Sofia's hand. Lucia wrapped her arms tightly around Elena. Mateo clung to Diego, fighting exhaustion and panic. They were tossed like driftwood, swallowed by the tempest. The night stretched endlessly. Storm and sea became one terrible force. The family battled the currents, hunger, cold, and fear. In those hours, time lost meaning, replaced by a primal will to survive. When dawn finally broke, it revealed no trace of Esperanza. No debris floated on the waves. No cries echoed on the wind. The sea was eerily calm, as if it had never been disturbed. The Morenos found themselves washed ashore on a small, hidden island, its cliffs steep and surrounded by jagged rocks. The island was lush with dense jungle, wild and untamed. No signs of human life. No chips. No rescue. They were stranded in a place forgotten by time, cut off from the world, and facing the impossible. Days became weeks. Hunger gnawed at their bellies. Fresh water was scarce, but found in small streams that trickled through the undergrowth. The family worked together, their skills and love becoming the only shields against despair. Carlos fashioned spears from driftwood and sharpened stones. Mateo and Sofia learned to fish in the shallow bays. Lucia tended to Elena and the others, her songs a balm against the creeping fear. But the island was not a sanctuary. Strange noises echoed in the jungle at night. Distant howls, eerie whispers carried on the wind. Shadows moved where no animal should be. The family could feel eyes watching from the darkness. Despite the danger, the island offered raw beauty. Exotic birds soared overhead, waterfalls cascaded into clear pools, and fruit hung heavy on the branches. The family clung to these signs of life as proof that they might endure. The days were long and grueling. Elena fell ill with fever, but Lucia nursed her with herbs and whispered prayers. Carlos and the children built shelters from palm leaves and vines. They kept watch, alert to the slightest hint of rescue or danger. Hope was fragile but alive. 3 years passed like a dream or a nightmare. The family changed, their bodies lean and weathered, their faces lined with hardship. Yet the bond between them deepened, forged by adversity and the desperate will to survive. The island's secrets grew darker with time. Mateo discovered strange carvings etched into stone walls in a hidden cave, symbols that hinted at a curse or ancient warning. The family's nights were haunted by dreams of drowning, of voices calling from the deep. Then, one stormy night, as lightning cracked and thunder rolled, a small boat appeared near the island shore. Its battered hull barely held together, but inside were 6 figures. The Moreno family, alive, changed, and forever marked by their ordeal. Their return sent shockwaves through the coastal town. Questions overwhelmed answers. What had happened during those 3 years? How had they survived? What mysteries had the sea and the island revealed? The story of the Moreno family was no longer just about survival. It was about confronting the unknown, facing inner demons, and the unbreakable strength of family. And in the shadows of their tale lay a lesson, one about respect for nature's power, the fragility of life, and the hope that endures even in the darkest storms. The moment the Moreno family's battered boat drifted ashore, the world around them held its breath. Their bodies were frail and gaunt, skin weathered by sun and salt, eyes hollowed by years of struggle. Yet beneath the exhaustion was a flicker of life that refused to die. They stepped onto the sand with trembling legs, their feet sinking into the unfamiliar earth. The island loomed, a wild, untamed fortress of cliffs, dense jungle, and shadowed secrets. It was the place where their fate had been rewritten. Carlos looked out across the sea, the waves churning under a darkening sky. The familiar coastline was nowhere in sight. No rescue ships, no sign of civilization. Only the endless expanse of water, vast and indifferent. The children clung to their parents, their faces pale but determined. Elena, the youngest, nestled against Lucia, her breathing shallow but steady. Sophia wiped away tears with the back of her hand. Mateo, though only a boy, had grown into a man before their eyes, fierce and protective. For 3 years, they had lived in this wilderness, cut off from the world, fighting not just for survival but for their sanity and their souls. When they first awoke on the island, the family was disoriented, their memories foggy, but the instinct to survive was immediate. Their shelter had been swept away in the storm. All that remained were shards of their boat and the clothes on their backs. The island, though remote and isolated, was alive with a strange energy. The air hummed with the cries of exotic birds and the rustle of leaves, but the undercurrent was one of danger. The jungle was dense, full of thorns, unseen creatures, and uncharted territory. Carlos, with his practical mind, quickly took charge. He scouted the area, searching for fresh water, food, and safety. The first challenge was water, a necessity that meant the difference between life and death. He found a stream, muddy but drinkable, winding through the trees. Lucia's instincts as a mother pushed her to care for the children, ensuring they ate what little they could find and stayed warm during the chilly nights. Their health faltered in the beginning. Infections, hunger, and the biting cold tested their limits. Mateo and Sophia, with youthful curiosity, explored the island's fringes, mapping the terrain with sticks and stones. They found fruits and edible roots, but also dangerous plants that caused rashes and illness. As weeks turned into months, the family settled into a fragile rhythm. Carlos fashioned tools from wood and stone, crafting spears for fishing and knives for cutting. He built a crude shelter from palm leaves and branches, a refuge from rain and wild animals. The children grew stronger, learning to swim in the shallow bays and catch fish. Diego's laughter returned, though quieter, while Elena's giggles were rare but treasured. But survival on the island was more than physical endurance. The psychological weight was heavier than any storm. The island's nights were long and silent, broken only by strange sounds, distant howls that echoed like the cries of lost souls, rustling footsteps in the underbrush, and whispers carried on the wind. Lucia often found herself staring into the darkness, feeling eyes watching her from unseen places. She kept Elena close, whispering old prayers taught by her grandmother, words meant to protect and soothe. Mateo discovered a hidden cave nestled deep within the jungle, its entrance obscured by vines and moss. Inside, the walls bore strange carvings, symbols that defied explanation. Twisting lines and shapes, ancient and eerie, etched into stone. He showed them to Carlos, whose brow furrowed with worry. The symbols seemed to tell a story, warnings of a curse, of people lost to the sea, doomed to wander without rest. That night, the family gathered around a fire, its flames flickering against the jungle's darkness. Fear mingled with determination. Was the island cursed? Were they prisoners of some ancient power? Sleep came in restless fits. Dreams tormented them, visions of drowning, voices calling from the deep, faces of strangers lost to the waves. Their days became a test of willpower and ingenuity. Carlos taught the children to fashion traps, to collect rainwater, and to preserve food. He shared stories from his childhood, tales of courage and resilience, weaving hope into their hearts. Lucia's songs echoed through the trees, a balm against despair. She taught the children songs of home, of love, and survival. Her voice was the family's anchor. They built a lookout atop a rocky outcrop overlooking the sea. From there, Carlos scanned the horizon daily, searching for ships or signs of rescue. But the ocean was vast and empty, indifferent to their plight. The island revealed its beauty in bursts, cascading waterfalls, lush fruit trees, and vibrant flowers. But its wildness was unforgiving. Storms would batter them without warning. Wild animals prowled the jungle. Hunger gnawed constantly, yet the family endured. Over time, the Moreno family changed. Their clothes hung in tatters, their skin tanned and scarred. Their eyes, once bright with innocence, grew somber and wise beyond their years. They learned to live by the island's rhythms, waking with the sun, resting during the hottest hours, hunting and gathering with care. Each member found their role: Mateo and Sofia as explorers and hunters, Diego as the joyful heart, Elena as the symbol of hope. Carlos's leadership was steady and strong, tempered by humility and love. Lucia's compassion held the family together through the darkest nights. But the island's mysteries deepened. One evening, a violent storm roared in from the sea. The family huddled in their shelter as the wind tore at the leaves and rain flooded the earth. Amid the storm's fury, a strange light flickered on the far shore. Not a ship's lantern, but something ethereal and unworldly. The children whispered of ghosts and spirits, while Carlos and Lucia exchanged worried glances. In the days that followed, Mateo returned to the cave and uncovered more carvings. Depictions of families like theirs, lost and wandering, trapped between worlds. It became clear that the island was more than a prison. It was a place caught between reality and legend, where time twisted and the rules of the world blurred. As the years passed, the family learned to navigate this strange existence. They held onto memories of home and dreams of rescue, but also accepted the island's power. Their bond grew stronger, forged by shared hardship and unspoken fears. They celebrated small victories: a successful hunt, a healed wound, a clear sunrise. Yet the island demanded its price. The family's health waned at times, and tensions simmered beneath the surface. The isolation tested their patience and faith. One night, as the stars blinked cold and distant above, the family sat around the fire. Carlos spoke quietly of faith, not just in God, but in each other and the world beyond. "We are more than this island," he said. "We are hope. We are family." Lucia nodded, her eyes shining. "And no matter what comes, we face it together." The children listened, their faces reflecting both fear and resolve. Then, on a morning like any other, a miracle appeared. A boat, battered, barely seaworthy, but real, drifted close to shore. Its sails torn, hull scarred by storms. And inside, 6 familiar faces. The Moreno family had returned. Their story was far from over. What they brought back with them was not just the scars of survival, but secrets that would shake the world. Secrets born from the island's curse and the depths of the sea. And as the waves kissed the shore, the family stepped into a new chapter, one of reckoning, healing, and revelation. The Moreno family's return to the mainland sent ripples through their coastal town like waves crashing against jagged cliffs, sudden, powerful, and impossible to ignore. After 3 long years, the impossible had happened. 6 souls vanished at sea had come back, alive yet changed, carrying the weight of untold stories. The townsfolk gathered at the dock as the battered boat, barely holding together, limped into the harbor. Faces weathered by time and worry scanned the shore, eyes searching desperately for the familiar silhouettes they had mourned and whispered about for years. Carlos stepped onto the dock first, his legs trembling, muscles weak but spirit unbroken. Lucia followed, clutching Elena tightly. Mateo, Sofia, Diego, all gaunt, sun-bleached, but unmistakably themselves. The children looked older, their eyes shadowed by experiences far beyond their years. News spread fast. The missing family was back, a living miracle. Yet their smiles were scarce, their voices quiet. The embrace of home was bittersweet. They were not the same people who had left on that sunny day in 1987. Something about the sea had taken more than their time. It had taken a part of their souls. The town's doctor examined them carefully. Physical ailments were apparent: dehydration, malnutrition, and scars both fresh and old. But the family also carried invisible wounds. Their eyes held distant shadows, as if memories haunted them like ghosts. Carlos recounted fragments of their ordeal: the storm, the island, the endless struggle for survival. But some questions remained unanswered. Where exactly was the island? How had they survived for so long without rescue? And what were the mysterious carvings Mateo had found? The local authorities were baffled. Search teams had scoured the seas near where Esperanza was lost, but the island described by the Morenos was nowhere on any map. It was as if the island existed in a space between worlds, hidden by the sea's deepest mysteries. Psychologists and scientists came to study the family, intrigued by their story and the strange phenomena surrounding it. The Morenos themselves were reluctant but determined to share their truth. Mateo, the eldest son, was the first to speak of the island's deeper mysteries. He described the cave with its strange symbols, the whispering shadows, and the sense that the island was alive, watching them, testing them. His words chilled those who listened. Lucia spoke of the voices in the night, the eerie lights that appeared during storms, and the dreams that felt more real than waking life. Carlos revealed a secret he had kept to himself, a knowledge gained from old fishermen's tales and local legends about the sea's hidden powers. The island, he believed, was cursed or protected by forces ancient and incomprehensible. The family's return was not just survival. It was a passage through realms of the unknown, a brush with powers humanity was never meant to confront. As weeks turned into months, the Morenos struggled to reintegrate. The familiar streets and faces brought comfort, but also deep unrest. Sofia found it hardest to return. Her sketches, once filled with light and color, now bore dark, twisted images. The jungle's shadows, the cave's markings, the sea's endless, watchful gaze. Diego, the youngest boy, was quiet and withdrawn. His laughter, once a beacon of hope, was rare and fragile. Nightmares plagued him, and he often woke screaming of drowning and voices calling from the water. Elena, the baby, now a toddler, clung to Lucia, sensing the family's fractured spirit. Carlos and Lucia worked tirelessly to rebuild their lives, but the island's grip lingered. They could not escape the feeling that something had followed them back, a presence in the quiet moments, a chill on warm days. One evening, under a heavy sky thick with clouds, Mateo gathered the family to show them something he had found, a journal buried beneath the cave stones, sealed in a weathered leather cover. The pages were fragile, written in a language half forgotten, but through painstaking effort, Mateo deciphered the story within. It was a record of others who had come to the island, sailors, fishermen, families, who vanished into the sea's embrace, trapped in a cycle of survival and loss. The journal spoke of a curse cast by an ancient sea goddess, angered by human greed and disrespect. The island was a prison and a sanctuary, a place where time bent and souls were tested. Those who survived the island's trials were granted a chance to return, but at a cost: the loss of innocence, a bond with the sea's eternal mystery, and the burden of remembering what others forgot. The family realized their ordeal was part of something much larger, a story stretching back centuries, woven into the fabric of the sea and its hidden depths. The island was more than a place. It was a crucible of transformation. As the truth sank in, the Morenos faced a choice: to carry the island's secret alone, or to share their story with the world, risking disbelief, ridicule, and the unveiling of forces mankind barely understood. The town watched them closely. Some offered sympathy and aid. Others whispered of madness and superstition. Then came the strange occurrences. Lights flickered in the Moreno home at night. Shadows moved in corners where no one stood, and soft whispers drifted through empty rooms. Neighbors reported sightings of figures on the cliffs, staring out to sea, faces pale and eyes distant. Carlos felt an unshakable pull toward the ocean, a yearning that frightened and fascinated him. Lucia dreamed of water rising, engulfing the world, and voices calling her name. Mateo and Sofia spent hours poring over the journal, seeking answers, but the more they uncovered, the deeper the mystery grew. Diego spoke of a friend he met on the island, a boy who vanished before their eyes, yet whose laughter echoed still. Elena's innocent questions hinted at knowledge beyond her years. The family's lives became entwined with the island story, their past and present merging in ways impossible to unravel. Local fishermen refused to sail near the area where Esperanza was lost, telling tales of cursed waters and restless spirits. Scientists were baffled by the disappearance of the island from maps and satellite images, as if it was a phantom place slipping in and out of reality. The Morenos faced growing isolation, trapped between two worlds, the safety of home and the pull of the sea's secrets. Amid this turmoil, Carlos made a decision. He would return to the island, not alone, but with a trusted few from the town, to uncover the truth once and for all. He believed the island held answers that could free them from its grasp. Lucia agreed, though fear tightened her chest. The children insisted on going, unwilling to leave the mystery unresolved. Together, they prepared for the journey, gathering supplies, studying maps, and steeling themselves for what lay ahead. Their departure was bittersweet. The town watched, holding its breath. The sea awaited, endless, indifferent, but holding its secrets close. As Esperanza set sail once more, the family carried with them not only their past, but the hopes of a future free from the island's shadow. Yet beneath the waves and beyond the horizon, unseen eyes watched. The sea's ancient power stirred, and the island's curse was far from broken. The Moreno family's journey was only beginning. The sun rose cold and gray on the morning Esperanza slipped quietly from the harbor once again. The Moreno family, hardened by 3 years lost to the sea's cruel embrace, prepared to face the island that had held them captive in its shadow. This time, they were not alone. A small crew of trusted fishermen and friends, guided by Carlos's steady hand and unyielding spirit, accompanied them, determined to unravel the mystery that had haunted their lives and the town. The sea was eerily calm, the horizon a seamless ribbon of blue and gray, as if the ocean itself held its breath. The island awaited, a ghostly silhouette rising from the waves like a forgotten dream. For the Morenos, returning to that cursed place was a journey into the unknown, a reckoning with the past, and a desperate hope for closure. As Esperanza approached the island, memories flooded back like crashing waves. The dense jungle, the hidden caves, the eerie carvings etched into stone walls, each a fragment of the puzzle they'd struggled to comprehend. The fishermen exchanged uneasy glances. Whispers of old legends and curses slipped between them, a shared fear born of respect for the sea's power. Carlos led the way, stepping onto the rocky shore with firm resolve. Lucia held Elena close, her eyes scanning the shadows, while Mateo, Sofia, and Diego followed, their faces set with determination. The island seemed unchanged, wild and untamed, cloaked in mystery. Yet an undercurrent of something ancient and restless stirred beneath the surface. They ventured into the jungle, following the familiar paths the family had forged years before. The forest was thick with life, but also silence, as if watching, waiting. Mateo led the group to the cave, its entrance dark and foreboding. Inside, the walls bore the same cryptic carvings, symbols that seemed to shift and shimmer in the flickering torchlight. As they explored deeper, the air grew colder, heavy with an unspoken warning. The echoes of their footsteps blended with distant whispers, barely audible, as if the island itself spoke in riddles. Then, in the heart of the cave, they found it, an ancient altar carved from stone, stained by time and salt. The journal Matteo had uncovered spoke of this place, a sacred site where the sea goddess's curse was said to have been cast, binding souls and twisting time. Carlos approached the altar cautiously. His fingers traced the worn carvings, feeling the weight of centuries. Suddenly, the air shifted. A low hum vibrated through the cave, rising to a crescendo. The ground trembled, and shadows coalesced into shapes, fleeting, ghostly figures of those lost to the sea over centuries. The fishermen gasped, fear and awe mingling in their eyes. Lucia clutched Elena tightly, whispering prayers as the past and present seemed to blur. The Morenos stood united, witnessing a bridge between worlds, a glimpse into the sea's eternal secret. From the altar, a voice emerged, not spoken, but felt deep within their souls. It spoke of balance, of respect, of the price paid by those who dared to defy nature's laws. The island was both a prison and a protector, a place where the sea's ancient power tested the hearts of mortals. The curse was not punishment, but a lesson, a call to humility and harmony with the world's fragile rhythms. The spirits faded, leaving behind a sense of peace and understanding. With heavy hearts but renewed purpose, the Morenos and their companions left the cave. The island's grip seemed to loosen, the shadows receding. They gathered at the shore, watching as the first light of dawn painted the sky in hues of gold and rose. Esperanza awaited, ready to carry them home. The journey back was quiet, reflective. The family carried with them the knowledge that their ordeal was part of something greater, a timeless dance between humanity and nature. Upon returning to their town, the Morenos shared their story openly, weaving truth and legend into a tapestry of warning and hope. The townsfolk listened, some skeptical, others moved by the family's courage and the undeniable evidence. The sea remained a source of life and livelihood, but respect for its power deepened. Fishermen honored old rituals, passing down tales of balance and reverence. The Moreno family, forever changed, embraced their new lives with gratitude and humility. Matteo and Sofia continued their studies of the carvings and the journal, dedicating themselves to preserving the island's history and its lessons. Diego found joy in simple pleasures again, his laughter returning brighter with each passing day. Elena grew strong, a symbol of hope and renewal. Carlos and Lucia found peace in the quiet moments, their bond strengthened by trials endured. The sea, vast and eternal, whispered on, a reminder of its mysteries and its mercy. The island faded once more from maps, a phantom place woven into myth. But the lesson endured, that humanity's greatest strength lies not in conquering nature, but in honoring its power and living in harmony. The Moreno family's story became a beacon, a testament to resilience, faith, and the enduring ties of love. And so, the sea reclaimed its secrets, the island rested in shadow, and the Morenos lived on, forever bound by the depths, yet free in spirit. The sea stretched endlessly before them, as Esperanza cut through the gentle waves on their journey back to the mainland. The weight of the island's secrets pressed upon the Moreno family, but a fragile sense of closure began to take root. Their bodies were tired, their spirits raw from the journey. Yet within them blossomed a quiet hope, the kind that only those who have faced death and returned can understand. Carlos sat at the helm, his eyes scanning the horizon as if searching for more than land, searching for meaning in the vast, merciless expanse. Lucia held Elena close, the baby's soft breaths a comforting rhythm amidst the silence. Matteo and Sofia sat together, poring over the ancient journal's worn pages, each symbol and story a piece of the puzzle they still struggled to comprehend. Diego, younger but no less changed, stared out at the water, lost in thought. The island, with its dense jungle, eerie whispers, and inscrutable carvings, seemed like a dream fading into memory, but its lessons were etched deeply into their hearts. As the boat drew nearer to their village, a crowd had gathered on the docks, faces lined with tears, disbelief, and hope. News had spread of their return, and the people waited, some skeptical, some joyous, many mourning the years lost. Carlos and his family stepped on a solid ground, their legs weak but steady. The embrace of familiar earth was bittersweet. The world they had left was not the world they returned to. Time had moved on. Friends had aged, some had passed, and the town bore the scars of its own hardships. The Morenos were met with overwhelming emotion, tearful reunions, whispered prayers, and the heavy silence of those who had never stopped hoping. But the family's silence was telling. They carried stories too vast and strange for words, shadows that could not easily be lifted. In the days that followed, the town worked to help the family heal. Doctors tended to their wounds, both seen and unseen. Psychologists listened to their fragmented accounts, piecing together the strange phenomena of the island and the years spent in isolation. Yet the more the family shared, the deeper the mystery grew. The journal Mateo had found became a cornerstone, a link to the past, to other lost souls caught in the sea's web. Researchers arrived, drawn by the tale of a disappearing island, a curse, and the impossible survival of the Morenos. They sought to understand the strange carvings, the island's shifting presence, and the supernatural elements hinted at by the family. Mateo and Sofia took it upon themselves to decode the symbols fully. They learned that the carvings told a story spanning centuries, a tale of a sea goddess named Maris, who once ruled the coastal waters. Maris had blessed the sea with life, but had also cursed it when humans took more than they gave. The island was her prison and sanctuary, a place where those who disrespected the balance between humanity and nature were tested, trapped, or transformed. Each family lost to the sea was part of this eternal cycle, caught between life and death, between worlds. The Morenos had survived because they had endured the trials, because their love, respect, and unity had transcended the curse's cruelty. The family struggled with this revelation. What did it mean for their future? Were they still bound by the island's power? Would the curse follow them back into the world? Carlos wrestled with guilt and responsibility. He had been a man of the sea all his life, but the island's lesson was clear. The sea was not to be conquered but honored. Lucia found solace in her faith and in the strength of her family. She began teaching others about balance, between humans and nature, between respect and desire. The children, forever changed by their ordeal, vowed to carry the message forward, to ensure no one else would suffer the same fate. But as peace seemed to settle, strange events began to unfold in the town. Fishermen reported unusual tides and eerie lights beneath the waves. Some spoke of voices calling from the depths, haunting melodies that chilled the bones. Animals acted strangely, and the wind carried whispers in a language no one understood. The Morenos sensed the island's influence was not gone. It had merely shifted, weaving its presence into the fabric of their lives and community. One night, as the family gathered around a fire on the beach, Lucia felt a familiar chill. The waves glistened under the moonlight, and shadows danced at the water's edge. A figure appeared, translucent and shimmering, a woman with eyes as deep as the ocean. It was Maris, the sea goddess, come to speak. Her voice was the song of the sea, both beautiful and terrifying. She spoke of balance restored, but warned that respect must be earned every day. The sea was alive, and its gifts came with responsibility. The Morenos listened, humbled and awed. With the goddess's blessing, the family felt a new beginning. They embraced their role as guardians of the sea's secrets, advocates for harmony between humanity and nature. The town, inspired by their story, adopted new customs, honoring the sea through festivals, rituals, and sustainable fishing practices. The island, now a legend, remained hidden, its mysteries preserved in stories passed down through generations. Years later, as Carlos and Lucia watched their grandchildren play by the shore, they knew the sea's lesson was eternal. Life was fragile, a dance between light and shadow, joy and sorrow, hope and fear. But above all, it was a reminder that love and respect could bridge even the greatest divides between land and sea, past and future, life and death. The Moreno family's journey, born in tragedy and tempered by courage, had become a beacon of hope and wisdom. And so, the sea continued its eternal song, the island rested in shadow, and the Morenos lived on, forever changed, forever bound by the depths, yet free in spirit.